Now, let's move on to our top story. And the government has admitted it is unable to stop the expansion of London's ultra-low emission zone. From next Tuesday, nearly 9 million people will be forced to pay £12.50 if they drive an old car in the capital.
Yes, lawyers have told ministers that the government's own net zero policies make it impossible to stop Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan's deeply unpopular ULEZ expansion. And there's every chance similar policies will be rolled out across the country.
Well, joining us now is political commentator Jonathan Lis.
And down the line, we have Prabhdeep Singh, who went on hunger strike over the expansion of ULEZ.
Thank you.
Well, can we start with you, Prabhdeep, if I may? You feel very passionately about ULEZ. You went on hunger strike. Why are you so opposed to it?
Well, actually, this ULEZ is
Oh, I think we're having a tricky line with Prabhdeep Singh there. I think if we just try and connect that line, we can talk to you in the meantime, Jonathan. What's your take on ULEZ? Are you pro or against?
I just can't believe that anyone would care enough about it
to go on hunger strike.
I kind of want to know more about it.
Because
that seems like a little bit extreme as a response. Look, the fundamental point is that actually ULEZ has been in the works for many years. Yeah. There have been numerous schemes from the days of Ken Livingstone when he was London Mayor to clean up London's air. Everyone who's ever been to London, lived in London, knows what it's like to be on a busy road and feel like you can't breathe and feel like there are toxic fumes going into your lungs. And we know that toxic air can kill people. There is documented evidence for that. So everyone agrees that we need to do something about it. And actually, until very recently, there was very little opposition to these plans. And if it hadn't been for 500 voters in Oxbridge and South Ruislip a few weeks ago, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It wouldn't be on the political agenda of either of the main parties.
But it is, Jonathan.
But it is on the agenda.
It is on the agenda.
But that's the point, David. It's only because of this particular political event that we're talking about it. So when you say it's deeply unpopular, I would question, how do you know it's deeply unpopular? 500 voters in Oxbridge and South Ruislip voted to keep a Tory MP in a seat that the Tories had held since 1970. That's not a London-wide poll.
It is a divisive issue, make no doubt about that. And also, you mentioned about clean air. Actually, the medical evidence shows from Professor Griffith, it shows that actually it doesn't make any difference whatsoever, the ULEZ. And Shirley Rodriguez, who's the deputy mayor, lent on them to change the report in favour of ULEZ. Won't this, and I understand it, for those people who have less income, this is going to directly affect them. They have to pay £12.50 to drive into London. So the poorest people are going to be the worst off.
So I was reading a story on the BBC just this afternoon that said there had actually been a drop in nitrous oxide emissions. So, I mean, obviously the science, I'm not a scientist, but, you believe that there has been a reduction and that more people, sort of 3% perhaps of Londoners, are now going to be living in areas that are below the UN's or the EU's kind of sort of acceptable level for nitrous oxide.
But Imperial College says ULEZ has little impact on pollution, quote unquote.
Okay, well, all I can tell you is the evidence that I've read, and I'm sure that different scientists will have different interpretations of what emissions there are. But, clearly there is some evidence from some people that this is working. And what I would say in relation to what you just asked is that I do think there should have been more time given to people in outer London to prepare for it. I think that it's good now that there's going to be an increased scrappage scheme. If people are affected by that, obviously there's a cost of living crisis. I think there should be more assistance, but fundamentally, we have to do something about cleaning up air. It's not even about climate change. Yeah. It's about the air that we breathe.
It is a health policy. And also, if they do a U-turn on ULEZ now, how people are going to be aggrieved if they've spent so much money on buying and transferring over to electric cars. But I do think we're back connected again with Prabhdeep. Hello, Prabhdeep. Can you tell us why you feel so passionately against ULEZ?
Well, actually, it is a big lie. They are just coming under the pretext of clean air, that they just, they're expanding the area due to the clean air. But there is nothing wrong with the air. I was sitting in the Uxbridge area. We monitored the air almost 7 days continue. We monitored the air. There is nothing wrong with it. And also, why I fought against it, why I stood up against it, it is simply a tax generating approach by the Labour mayor for
I
the
understand
TfL.
that, but Pradip,
So,
what do you say in response to Cancer Research UK's research that finds that 1 in 10 lung cancers are caused by air pollution, and the evidence
But
that
this won't affect that.
ULEZ does actually reduce air pollution in built-up city areas?
well, as you have just mentioned about the Imperial College research, and there are other surveys out there. It's been clear that it's not much difference. And I also, I'm not denying that we should not go for the clean air. But at this point of time, when we are, going through the food poverty and the cost of living crisis on the hike, and when at the same time we put in the extra burden on the people, asking them to pay £12.50. Suppose I pay £12.50 and enter into the London. Would it make the difference to the air quality? So what kind of approach is this?
Well,
If there is a problem,
it's supposed
you
to
want
act
to
as a
solve
deterrent,
it. You
isn't
cannot
it?
create hundreds of problems in return in order to solve one.
It's supposed to act as a deterrent, and that has been effective because so many people have changed the model of car that they have bought over the past few years. But what you say that you do care about the quality of air in the city in London. What would you propose as an alternative, sorry, to ULEZ?
So as far as the central London is concerned, where Boris Johnson has brought this scheme first, that's fine. But outer London, especially Uxbridge area, Bromley, and the other part of the Greater London, there is no problem with the clean air. There is no such research which shows that the air is, air quality is bad in that part of London. So it is simply expanding that will leave the people, in a bankruptcy. People who cannot afford to buy, if they buy that, they cannot keep the installment. They will end up being bankrupted. And it is simply a tax on the poor people, you can see.
Prabhdeep, you make some very strong points indeed. Jonathan, this is an accusation that's been levelled as well about it's a money-raising activity for the mayor. £12.50, obviously, Prabhdeep, and many people around London and the outer boroughs, because those are the people that this is going to affect. Those people that live outside the M25 who then want to drive into London will have to pay £12.50, say, to drop off your kids at school, or indeed if you have a small business. And remember, the backbone of the economy is small businesses. So obviously all of those will be affected. There's also a really interesting political side to this, which it sort of puts the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and Keir Starmer at loggerheads here, I think. There's definitely tension between the two.
Well, you might say that one of them is a conviction politician, the other one is, a weather vane. Now, look, I obviously support Labour. I want Labour to win the election, but Keir Starmer has shown himself to be a reactive politician for the last couple of years. He's not bold enough at the moment. Maybe he will be after he becomes Prime Minister, which I expect he will. He's not bold enough to actually take the initiative and stick to his principles. If he gets a hint from focus groups or from a by-election poll that the public is uneasy about something, he will completely back down. Whereas Sadiq Khan he stood on a manifesto that was about ULEZ. ULEZ dates back to the days of Boris Johnson. He has no political imperative to back down on this. And of course, you have to remember, if you're living inside the North and South Circular, you've already had ULEZ for a long time, and you might be wondering why there's so much fuss given to people out.
But I was just going to say, don't you think this is incredibly divisive? Because I think the Uxbridge by-election result is really fascinating.
But it was only by 450
that doesn't
votes.
matter. The fact is, actually, we need, I think, my personal view is we want a referendum on net zero. I don't think anyone voted for this. And of course, the reason the government can't do anything is because they've enshrined it into law. And so therefore, they can't actually do anything about Sadiq Khan because they themselves have actually enshrined that into law.
But what's the point in devolved powers if you can't actually allow the Mayor of London to take that initiative? And look, we've got a mayoral election.
But the Mayor of London, of course, doesn't control the outer boroughs, those outside the M25.
No, but we have an election coming up, so let people decide. That's let the people decide in that way.
Look, it's a really good point. And Jonathan, just going back to you on that point, do you think this is going to become a massive electoral issue? You said that without Uxbridge, we wouldn't be talking about it. And the question I have, really, is do you think that this will become one of those big election issues?
No, because unless Sadiq Khan has a secret plan to introduce ULEZ to the entire United Kingdom, that's the only way the Conservatives can capitalise on this. Look, and also the areas that are going to be affected are mostly sort of conservative, safe seats. So seats that perhaps Labour might have wanted to take in a landslide type territory, but which they're not going to. I don't think there are that many marginal seats that could be affected, but perhaps a handful. But it also might not be such an issue by the time the next election, and people will be itching to get rid of the Conservatives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this ULEZ is such a London-centric issue. People up north aren't talking about it.
Not yet, until it's introduced in the north.
Labour have already said that Keir Starmer's already said that he will not be rolling this out on other cities. And I understand
but
when he
Jonathan
gets
says he changes his mind.
Yes, he does change his mind, and I understand that. Well, we can worry about that later on. But right now, this is so London-centric. My family, people where I'm from, they don't know what ULEZ even stands for.
They may not, but I'm telling you, it will be rolled out around the country. £110 million seems a lot of money to be spending on this when actually there is no medical evidence.
Well, no medical... Well,
we
come back to Nicola.
I've got some here. Some data from City Hall. Emissions cut in central London by 46%.
From City Hall?
Yes,
so
because
that
of
biased
ULEZ.
source, you mean?
Oh, David.
Oh, right,
well,
OK,
well,
David.
this is the point, isn't it? So when you actually look, when I look at the actual study they conducted, it found no evidence of health benefits to children's lungs. That was the medical study published in The Lancet, one of the medical journals, and Shirley Rodriguez, then the deputy mayor, lent on them to change the wording of that to suit the agenda of the Mayor of London.
Are you saying that we don't have a problem with pollution and clean air in London? Because most people who live in this city would think there is a problem with these issues and we need a greener city and environment and cleaner air. That's not a part
I think most people are on board with that. I think the point you made but I think the point you made much earlier was the speed of transition is far too short.
But that's
I agree with that.
So that's where I think
all agree with
people are
that. But that's a
struggling.
separate issue from the principle of ULEZ and the congestion charge before that, and all kinds of initiatives that people, are bringing out in local government to try and make the environment safer and healthier for the people who live there.
There's also another problem. Of course, we have an energy gap. We simply don't produce enough energy. As you know, there were a lot of sort of squeaky bottom moments in the winter because we didn't produce enough energy. And until we do that, of course, the shift to electric vehicles is a non-starter.
But you cannot possibly argue that having an electric car or a hybrid car is in no way beneficial compared to a fully petrol or diesel.
Of course.
4,000 Londoners die every year prematurely. Like, the numbers are insane. When you compare them to COVID across, nationwide, it's almost the same as what happened with COVID.
Show me cause and effect, though, with ULEZ. Show me cause and effect.
Well, I know that there are midwives speaking around London. I read a piece last week saying that, when early stage of pregnancy, you'll take a carbon monoxide test, and what's known as the Hackney average is above what is a safe level of carbon monoxide. So we're talking about young mums, pregnant mothers around London who are having unsafe levels of carbon monoxide in their blood. I'm not happy about that.
So let's just go back to the way this has been rolled out. So, as I said, £110 million. It seems to me that you get £2,000 for a private vehicle. If you have a van or a minibus, it's £6,000 to £11,000. But, of course, that only applies to people within the M25. So what about those small businesses outside
I'm with you on that.
The M25?
Yeah,
they're really struggling.
Look, I mean, David, I agree with you. And I remember way back in 2003, when the congestion charge was introduced, people were also having this conversation, people who lived outside, who weren't going to get a discount, who said their businesses were going to be affected. And whenever you have the introduction of these schemes, you're always going to have people who will suffer. And that if I was a politician, which I'm not, I would be, really having an imperative to help those people. But fundamentally, politicians have to set agendas. They fight on election platforms. They win election on those platforms, and they implement them. And they have to mitigate the negative consequences as best they can.
Thank you for joining us in the studio, Jonathan Lis and Prabhdeep Singh down the line. Thank you so much.